Welcome to the Chameleon Resumes Executive Career Chat. I am Lisa Rangel of Chameleon Resumes, and our guest today is Martha Heller. I'm so excited that you are here. Welcome, and welcome to all of you for the how to land an executive role in the AI age training session. And my guest, Martha Heller of Heller Search. We are super excited to have you. I know we're going to talk about a number of things today. They're going to help each one of you make your search tighter and come across as the leader in demand that you are. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Martha, and then we're going to jump right into it. Martha is the CEO of Heller, the leading IT executive search firm in the data AI
World, universe.
universe. We're we're
Thank you.
going with the
Thank
universe. Exactly. And I have written for Martha on her blog. If you have not subscribed, and we're going to put the link in the chat, she has the Heller Report, which is quite, in my opinion, quite literally the foremost leadership blog for not just IT professionals,
thank
but
you.
for every professional that needs to manage themselves and their practices in the AI age, which really is every leader, which is why I wanted to have her here with our cross-functional audience, because this is a conversation that is pertinent to everyone. She started the CIO Executive Council. She's been a speaker for hundreds of different organizations to share the knowledge that you need to know as the AI age. And I can go on and on, but Martha has asked me to keep it short, so I will do that. But thank you again, Martha, and welcome. And let's jump into it. We're gonna kick this off with. I love the analogy that when we were prepping for this, the analogy that you brought to the table of treating an executive search like a product launch.
That's right.
And, I have tried, and I continue to try, and I'll always keep trying, but that's exactly what this is. A executive job search is a sales process. And,
That's
you
right.
have to have your product and then the launch, but I loved how you break it down. So let's start with that. And we
All right.
will.
Let's see if I can do as good a job as when we were prepped, but we'll try. We'll give it a shot. So first of all, I want to mention this notion of replatforming products in the way that it's happening in business right now. So, we've replatformed remember when we were on floppy disk? We've replatformed since then. In
Right.
fact, we had a whole raft of executive searches for product engineering CTOs who quickly needed to re-platform software products in a native cloud development. So we're re-platforming all the time.
Hmm.
We ourselves must re-platform from time to time. And so, the first piece of any product launch is, well, let's decide what the brand is for this product. You're the product. You've been in development for however
Absolutely.
long. For me, it's 82, 83 years. Well, it might be less than that. It feels like I've been in development for that long. So you're in development. Now you've got to do your rebranding for where we are now. And where we are is dramatically different from where we've been. So the first question is, what's my brand? The brand must be I turn data into value.
Hmm.
That's the only brand. We'll get into that a little bit later in the discussion. Data everywhere, but not a drop of value. Have you seen that movie before? It's all I see. And then we're supposed to get way up. Can you see all my arms? Can you see me? Yes.
Yep.
And then we're supposed to get all the way to value. Data is value. What even is this, by the way? Insights? Yeah, right. Maybe sometimes. I'll believe insights when I see it. Data solutions business? Could be. A
Right.
platform business? A business run by blockchain processes and AI and no people? It could happen. So the value, the job, the product, let me get back to it. The brand is I turn data to value. Now that's just the overarching thing every single company needs right now, whether they know it or not, in a big way, because here comes AI. But what's your brand beyond that? For example, when you leave the room, what do people say about you? Do they say that person was engaging, smart, and thoughtful?
Hmm.
Do they say that person was a driver, strategic, and visionary?
Right.
So start thinking about who you are, because you know what's fascinating right now as we platform? I mean, the robots are coming, right? AI is coming. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden, in every position description, in every human leadership, no sooner do the robots come to take over our companies, and I'm being kind of sort of facetious, it's
Of
metaphors, but we
course.
know what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Suddenly we need to be very human. So starting to think who you are as a human, as opposed to I'm a transformational driver. It's like, okay, but where's the storytelling? Where's the engagement? So
Mhm.
what is your brand? That is number one. Okay, once you've got your brand, the next piece is you need your marketing materials. Now we have wonderful services like that Lisa and Krista provide with Chameleon. Get your resume in shape. That's what we're talking about. Resume continues to be the currency of executive search without question. We love that resume. Couple things about your resume. One, have these words in it: data, transformation,
Mhm.
team building, team development, team, cross functional. Emphasize influence, emphasize business impact. The business impact should always be there and it should always be growth.
Yeah,
Build, build,
I want
build.
to, I just want to, comment on that. I think that's sometimes
Yes,
what gets lost is there's, the key words that you're giving are obviously incredibly helpful and pertinent, but it's what's the impact behind it. And,
that's
a
right.
lot of
That's
times
right.
resumes are a sea of tasks that
Yes,
you're doing as a CXO, but if you're competing at a higher level and
that's right.
if a recruiter's looking at one resume after another and it's all a bunch of tasks, um, it's hard for that recruiter to know who's
It's,
doing the best job at that
that's
task.
exactly
So you
right.
need
And
to put the outcome, the
Suzanne just
impact.
mentioned it's the so what. It's the
Absolutely.
so what. What's the
Right.
impact? Business impact is. Let me make a couple of quick comments on the resume because
Yep.
Lisa has far more expertise than I do. I'm just going to give you a couple and then we're going to get on to the next piece of it, which is
Absolutely.
get those words in there because you need those words, period. If I look
Hmm.
at a CIO resume, a CTO resume, and I don't see the word AI, I think, doink, are you not
Right.
aware? Okay, so put it in there. And of course, the backup has to be there with the examples, with the impact, with the all of that. But those are the words. Avoid too much uncontextualized content. In other words, when I see a whole page of I did a end-to-end SAP
Right.
transformation. I think, yeah, but was that at the big company or at that little company? So
Exactly.
you need
Contact.
to, contextualize all that real estate spent on project. I could tell you every word that's going to be on there. Uh, so contextualize the information. To my mind, three, at least you'll have your strong feelings about this. I think 3 pages are fine. I try not to go too far over that. But don't waste time talking about stuff that isn't under the companies where you did that. For me, it's
Agreed.
annoying because now I got to make a connection between this bullet and that job.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just moving right on. Okay, here's the key stuff to my mind. Establish your market. I'll talk to people and they'll say, I'm ready for a change. And I'll say, okay, terrific. What are you thinking about? Well, something interesting. All right. Something where technology is viewed as a strategic advantage. I'll move anywhere, any industry. And I
So,
think there's no strategy there. When we used to have travel agents, and they would say, well, where do you want to go? Someplace fun. It's like, well, that's a long conversation. Can we narrow that down a little bit? So, when I think of how to really focus in on what your market is, imagine you can have an introduction to one person anywhere
hmm
for a chance for you to explain to them why your value prop is precisely what they need.
hmm
Well, I would love for Lin-Manuel Miranda to recognize my innate Broadway talents, but I'm not blowing that call for that because that ain't just ain't gonna happen.
Right.
I tell you what I want. I want the head, if you're listening out there, the head of talent for one of the very large private equity firms, so that we could explain why we're such good Portco technology executive search. Da, da, business. I think I'd have a shot. Doesn't mean I get it, but I'd swing for the fences for that one. Who is the CEO, CIO, head of sales, CFO, whatever your
Mhm.
line is, where you think, boy, not only could I, do I want to have that meeting with that person? I could really make a case for why I belong there, and here's why. And when you do that, think mission, connection. It's not, well, I've got retail and they're retail. And it just, I don't believe passion smashing. It's where is the work where do I feel connected to the work?
Right.
For whatever reason. Once you've got that one CEO or CIO or CHRO, whoever your leader, your hiring manager would be, now make a list of 10 of them. Once you got a list of 10, now make a list of 20. That's your market. That's your market. So now you can network your way to them. Now, I don't know how much in-person networking we do, but I used to like go and stand by the little cheese cubes, the little cubes of cheese, and just see who came by, and I talked to them. Then I got wise and said, I know who I want to meet here because
Right.
I've read the program. I'm going to go make my way to those people, and I know the brand I'm bringing along with me. So that's all. It's very, very straightforward and obvious, but it's also very strategic. So I'm going to
Which
stop
goes back to
there.
it goes back to your brand, your
Yeah.
analogy of the product launch, right? You define the product, what markets are going to be receiving of this product, how do you contact them? It's coming up with the strategy and then the execution of that strategy to get the product in the right hands. It's such a
Exactly. And the other
similar
thing about, so
mindset.
I'm so sorry, Lisa, one more
No, you're
thing.
good.
But the other thing we forget about product launch, especially if you're selling, is discipline.
Hmm.
You go out, you find 10 people who some way or another know the CEO you want to meet, and you go out to all 10 of them. The next day you find another 10, and the next day you go back to those 10, and you just keep doing it like it's like you're selling. And it happens
Bravo.
unless you're way off in what you think you bring and what you're perceived to bring. So
Right.
that's my product launch. You are the product launch career search section, Lisa.
Yeah. No, I'm putting that in the chat here, that product being you. I mean, that's, and I love that you mentioned networking. It's about packaging yourself like a product that needs to go to market and then putting yourself to market.
That,
And,
that's right.
if you had a product that you were launching, you wouldn't just submit RFPs all day to get it on a shelf. You wouldn't submit, you know, you wouldn't just email people saying buy this. You would get on the
Exactly.
phone and you would talk to distributors and you would talk to people and find out where to go. And a job search is a sales process and you're the product. Like
It
even if
it
you're not
is.
a
And I
salesperson.
think if we get and we can even get beyond the product marketing, because somebody just pointed out it's sales. It's just a metaphor. The main thing
Yeah.
is you have value proposition to bring
Hmm.
to all these companies, but the only thing they're going to be looking at you for is, can you turn our data into value?
Right.
That's whether you can lead a workforce that brings in data scientists. That's whether you can imagine new data solutions because you're on the
Mhm.
P&L end. That's because you're in data engineering and you're integrating data successfully. That's all anybody cares about. You need to turn around and make that real for them. But that's the value prop. And once you can line up where you could bring that value prop, there's your search
Right.
strategy. It's straightforward. It just requires some stepping back and thoughtfulness and
You, you
discipline.
know, you bring up, the next great point that I want to talk about. In doing interview prep for executives, obviously you're preparing executives for interviews, your teams, and you are doing that every day, all day long. That people are sometimes confused or perplexed, like, how do I talk about AI on an interview? And, or how can I make this relevant? And I really believe most of us are doing the work and don't know necessarily that that's the work that needs to be discussed. And you have a great way of discussing how an executive of any discipline can talk about AI and data, most importantly, even data, because AI is a tool, but the data, whether you're in finance or marketing or in IT or any discipline
That's
in
right.
HR. Everyone has data, right? We're merging
Right.
companies and everybody's got respective data. And what to do with that data and how it's managed and how decisions are made, I think is crucial. And that is one massive piece that an executive can talk about from their particular discipline to show that they are on the front lines of this. And we'll go
It's
through that
it's
process
the
in just
only
a
piece.
second. Yeah, no, we'll go through that process in
That's
just
right.
a second. But one of the other things that I wanted to highlight that you brought up earlier and then said it again just recently is influence. Talking to people in these spaces, no matter what your discipline is, in the data science field, in the AI field, you now then have influence to say, I know an expert that can help us, or you can call them and reference them in a decision that's being made. And building out your
That's right.
network in this space, even if it's not something that's intuitive or natural to you, or you didn't graduate from, MIT, I think doing this, then you then become the resource because, you have a person, right, that you can always
That's
refer
right.
to. But walk us through the data evaluation process so the data
Sure.
can have value. And I think it'll touch the souls of a lot of people here that they're doing that already and not realizing it's something that they can talk about in a specific way.
So first of all, I love when we talk about data touching souls. Now we know we're really in cyborg land. Item one and item two, I agree with you. I just want to put an asterisk next to your point, Lisa, about networks.
Hmm.
Your networks, as we move to nimble cross-functional teams where we don't just keep hiring, your networks
Hmm.
of specialists that you can bring in become incredibly important, even more so now than they have been because of the pace of change. So, I mean,
Hmm.
look, I will offer some frameworks that I speak to CEOs and the candidate market about. And every time I say, does this resonate? Does this resonate? And when they say yes enough, I say, okay, I might have something here. So here's how I think about it. We mentioned this briefly, data everywhere. I just did a big presentation to a whole IT leadership team of a wonderful company. They're in the high tech space. And I said, so let me ask all of you, this is the whole IT team, tell me about, your data to value journey. And they said, the problem is we have the data, but where's the value? And I thought, oh, this is an $8 billion business. This is everywhere. So
Right.
you got all the data, you know, you have to get to value. We don't know what this is, by the way. This could be a business run without people in 15 years. I don't know. I don't know what life would look like, but that's where we're headed,
Hmm.
you know. So we have data, but we don't know what to make of it. Well, what data do we have? That's an IT question. Tech can answer
Hmm.
that question. Is it secure? Tech can answer that question. Do we have access to it? Tech can
Hmm.
answer that question. What data do we need? Oops. Now we got to get business way in there, but not just, what does that even mean, business? This is a level of corporate acuity that many companies simply do not have. But now
Hmm.
they have to have it because here comes AI. By the way, did we ask for this? I don't remember if we asked for AI, but anyway, here it comes. Um, so the critical corporate acuity. Well, if you're going to ask what data we need, we have to know who our customers are. We have to know what our key processes are. I mean, there's so much that we have to know. So that's a big challenge right there. That's why this is such an important cross-functional conversation.
Hmm.
Okay, we figured it out. By the way, United Airlines knows what I just did. I'm very high on United Airlines right now because I'm just publishing an article with them tomorrow with the CIO there, and they know what data they need at United. So, what? Okay, now we know what data we need. Now we have to govern it. Ooh, that's a sticky wicket, governing it. That's my data, that's your data, that's my data, that's your data. So that's a whole master data management is political. So that's a
Right.
whole political thing we got to get into. Okay, we got that. We governed. Now we got to get some use cases. Anybody?
Right.
Anybody? Oh, we have 300 and none of them have any ROI attached at all. So now we have to get into the use case generation mode. That is a cross-functional exercise. And to me, that is uh, skill for all of you and everybody in the AI age. So, Lisa, you're
Mhm.
saying, how do you talk about AI? You understand that to get from here to here, you must there you must have transformational leadership at every single level. So now we get to the
Mhm.
governance. We got that. Good. Okay, use cases, use case development, getting a momentum going. We've talked about innovation engines, COE, centers of excellence. This is the job. This is the job,
Mhm.
right? We need to democratize AI use case development, and the use cases must adhere to the following. One, structured data or unstructured data if your LLM models are sophisticated enough that you don't need the structured data, but you need the right data. At Heller, I know there's no pitching, but try to stop me, Lisa. No, I'm joking. But at Heller, our data is resumes, our data is people, our data is all of you. It's extremely structured.
Right.
The next is very measured processes. How do you know if you're moving the dial if you're not measuring it every day for your whole life? Ours is time to fill. It's 87 days. If it goes to 86, we'll know it. Oh,
Mhm.
it needs to be profitable in some way. It could be high productivity, whatever. Whatever you're moving the dial on needs to matter. Oh, and then there's this other thing you need, business engagement. IT cannot be doing AI to people. And then finally, what you need is cross-functional collaboration. You need, this is in my article, if you don't already have a situation where finance, legal, tech, talent aren't all really working together, the ethical issues, all of these issues.
Mhm.
So for you to understand, oh, so now we've gotten to that. We've got use cases, we got the parameters. Now we've got to scale them. Anybody in IT knows scaling is harder, much harder to do than to say.
Mhm.
Great, we did all of that. Now we got to P&L this thing. If you're really in the AI era, no one in your company has ever led a P&L like this before.
Mhm.
So now we got to change that. Now we've got to go to the board level, and that's a different conversation. So the way I would think about skill sets in this age of AI and recommendations I would make for how you can represent your expertise is to understand number one, most of them are here. And so it's going to be about data engineering. And if you're not in
Mhm.
that, then it's going to be about use case development. It's going to be about education, but being an expert in what has to happen to get this company, your company, or the company you're interviewing for, into an AI readiness state. That is, to my mind, because I said it, a smart thing to say about. That's one. Another thing that I would say is there's three different kinds of AI, to my mind. One is FOMO. Let's just do stuff to do stuff. It's probably going to be risky and won't do anything, but at least we're using it.
Right.
The next is commercial products like Copilot, right? That we're really using to do. Claude is helping me write my next book. Lord love Claude. Where have you been all my life? Then there's real enterprise level Gen AI where we are training models against our own data and external data to really change our business model.
Mhm.
Your ability, if you choose that definition, there are many other ways. I think phone is going to go away at some point. Even your ability to explain that. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, what do you think of AI? And I was like, well, that's like, what do you think of technology? I don't like nuclear war, but I do like Candy Crush. So, demystifying, that's one. The other is AI leadership is a land grab right now, a land grab.
Right.
AI roles, AI leadership, they're everywhere. So go be your AI expert. These are the things you know about AI. There's commercial AI where we're using Copilot. For example, individual person, for you in your personal life, have it plan your next trip to Rome.
Hmm.
Okay, CEO or board, here's what it means to this insurance business, which is entirely different from that.
Right.
Develop your own knowledge and be your ex be this is it's such an opportunity. So whenever there's a vacuum, it's like whoever gets to sort of climb into it and claim it defines it. Let's all decide here that we are going to be a part of that effort.
So I have a question for you.
Yes,
Um, and we didn't necessarily talk about this, so I hope it's okay.
we'll find out.
We're both good on our feet. I'm not worried. You know, it's funny. I see people of all types, at all levels getting, as you just described. I love that you called it FOMO AI. They want to be on it just to say they're on it, and obviously the other two stages are helpful. But ultimately, it's a tool, right? It's a tool, and I'm finding that if people are not clear on who they are, what they want, their sense of values, all it's doing is amplifying their their mental muddiness, you know.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm finding that despite this advancement in technology, I think really the ones that are doing well with it are becoming clearer on who they are and their own self. And then they're using the tool to amplify that clarity. And I think despite this advancement in technology, it's actually bringing about an advancement in human clarity, because without it, I think having this
That's
tool
right.
is going to be really damaging for many, because then you're just amplifying whatever you're not clear on, and that might not be the path you've been wanting to do. I don't know. It's a little
So
more medical, physical, and bringing up the
no,
soul with data,
it's
but
beautifully
what do you think?
metaphysical. And first of all, it's what you're that I see the chat going on. It's maybe the skill we're all talking about here is laser focus on the so what, laser
Right,
focus on the why. Now, if you take that, I mean, and AI, I think tool is too minor for what it is.
right.
It's inventing itself.
Hmm.
For the first, here's another skill that we could talk about. Uh, Leaders have always been Sherpas for their businesses, bringing
Hmm.
them forward uh, when it's not crystal clear where we're going, but we make a decision about where we're going and off we go. And
Hmm.
maybe the CEO is the one who provides the clarity, but we do it for our teams. We make the decisions to clear the hill. We do all of that. When .com came along and digital came along, those clouds got a little muddy. Like our traditional way that we grow got digital changed all of that, so we couldn't see it, but the clouds eventually cleared and we said, okay, it's a P&L, it's called digital, it's, we
Hmm.
got there. But now here comes AI, and boy, those clouds are heavy again. And the reason is AI, unless you smart leaders out there tell me I'm wrong, my understanding is that AI is going to sort of invent itself, at
Hmm.
least more than any other technology ever has. So
Hmm.
what that is, we don't know anymore, and yet we must still Sherpa. So
Right.
how do we do that? We story tell. We describe what is likely to be up ahead. We interpret the future so that we can help everyone make these decisions now. So if we
Hmm.
want to start thinking about attributes, curiosity, education, storytelling, I almost think influence is almost becoming table stakes. It's more the storytelling that enables the influence.
Right.
Describing, hey gang, I remember this is very embarrassing because it's my husband who used to tell me that the just around the corner of a hike was an ice cream stand. And I somehow believed this, right? That if I just got around, there would be an ice cream stand there. So this is sort of what our jobs are now, is to elucidate a very confusing future for people. And by the way, this is I don't think, since think about how digital came in and suddenly was everything.
Hmm.
Digital was the way we described newness and change. Digital is old to me now. In fact, we redid our website to show how the different channels of tech that we're now recruiting in.
Hmm.
I wrote digital one, I wrote every word, I wrote digital one time. And that was when I said we do recruit chief digital officers because I want to get in on that good work. Digital is old now. Legacy begins the day you put something in.
Right.
AI. And every once in a while, I think, oh, excuse me, oh, this economy and these terrorists, are we going to kill AI? No way. We may not participate in it quite the same way. So, Lisa, any other questions? I want to make sure I don't go off the
No,
deep
you're
end on this
good. No,
stuff.
you're doing fine.
Okay.
I think the storytelling piece I think is really pertinent here because maybe some examples about some of the stories that people can tell, through merger and acquisition. When we were doing our prep meeting, you mentioned, companies have two sets or multiple sets of data, and then the integration of that is
That's
a
it.
story that someone can tell about how they used different aspects of AI to, scrub the data, make sure that it's clean, decide if they want it, that sort of thing. Bringing people onboarded into the organization to help retention.
Right.
Like, what are some of the use cases that you've seen that I believe many of us have here, and they maybe just not thinking of them as examples to talk about and how to tell that story and the use of the
Sure. I mean,
tool
I'll
to
give you
carry
some
the mission.
real low-hanging fruit for commercial AI, but I
Hmm.
also see, and then let's hit some of these wonderful questions that are coming in because
Yep.
they're mouth-watering. They're mouth-watering. Um, Call centers. It's the epicenter.
Right.
I just published an article on this. By the
Hmm.
way, the guy that so let me just getting back to the skill set.
Hmm.
We talked about this, right? Mike Clifton was the CIO at Cognizant, and
Hmm.
previous to that, CIOs in different companies, including financial services. He can do quite well on the data engineering front.
Hmm.
Michael Clifton knows at data engineering. We placed him at a company as CIO called Alorica, about a three, $4
Hmm.
billion call center business, really call center
Hmm.
outsourcing. So Mike comes in, it's very complex because you need a multi-tenant architecture because you've got all these different clients' credit cards accounts, for example. You
Right.
have to deal with all of that. So very technical, an architect.
Hmm.
Then he gets in and they quickly make him chief digital officer because he's just so market oriented. He's very customer
Right.
facing. Then before I know it, he's now COO because what do you do as a COO these days? You implement technology to improve processes. Well,
Operations.
today he's CEO of that company because he can also P&L it. And by the way, that company, like Microsoft, is putting commercial call center AI products like Microsoft is doing into the market.
Hmm.
That is a full-blown leader. That is the leadership skill. Every CEO needs to hire somebody who can go
Hmm.
from data engineering to being the CEO. There are very few of them. But I just wanted to play that back because to cement it all. So, call center is a great application. You folks can tell me better, especially the technology leaders, but a lot of the support work doing in writing code is a lot of Gen AI is taking care of that. So there are some clear use cases, lots in marketing.
Hmm.
Writing PR, and United Airlines, it'll be online tomorrow, but they're doing a tremendous amount with customer communication using AI.
Right.
So those are some examples. I'm just going to hit some of these. Are
Yeah.
CEOs really expecting hard outcomes and from AI? They don't know. They have no idea. They don't know what their AI strategy is. Am I getting ROI from the co-pilot my CIO asked me to order, or are we training our own LLMs on our own data mixed with external data? They don't
Hmm.
know. Imagine you are the CEO of a manufacturing company like your father and his father and his father and his father. And you're sitting around the executive table, the CEO, and you're thinking, I know you, the CFO. I was you. I know you, CHRO. I've worked with you in your profession for years. I know you, COO.
Hmm.
CIO, how did you get back to my table? I banished you. I put you under the CFO, and now you're back. Who are you? You're my chief
Right.
AI officer? You're my chief data officer? I mean, it is a whole new world right now.
Hmm.
So, what do CEOs, this is what I can tell you. CEOs do not, most of them expect real hard ROI from AI investments right now. But my belief and concern is that not in the next 5 years, we won't get there. But after that, the only real ROI from AI is reduced headcount in the end. That's where we're headed. And now, what will all of us, where will these companies be when there aren't people
Hmm.
in them? You know, and it's all evolving, right? And I don't want to,
Right.
you see the aliens are coming here. But I do believe that the person on the executive committee or on their way up who can say to the CEO, here's AI, here's what it means to this company, here is a roadmap for dipping in because we must dip in, and here's why. That's what they need. It's the Sherpa. They're not the Sherpa. They've been the Sherpa of a different mountain.
Right.
So that you also said, let's see, going on the data, one of the portions is someone, anything else you want me to hit, Lisa?
No, I mean, some people, because they've been looking for a little bit, like, what are some insights that you have that are, when candidates are hired quickly, like, what are some of the common traits? And when candidates tend to, for
Sure.
lack of a better way of putting it, be
That's
passed over,
right.
what are some of the traits that you're seeing?
Wonderful. So I want to address the question of, if you don't mind for a second, when you've been out of work for a couple of years and
Yep.
everything's moving so fast.
Yeah.
First, I would do some kind of online AI certification, do anything just to show, put data, take a course in data science, intro to data science. It's good for, I
Hmm.
mean, you want to know this. We are
Right.
all moving into a cyborg future. We're a little data, a little tech, a little business, right? We're not
Mhm.
divided anymore. So I would say use, get AI, show your curiosity. Lisa, you mentioned what are
Mhm.
some of the attributes? Curiosity.
Curiosity.
So if you're out of work for a couple of years, show your curiosity. You're not, oh, but I'm a natural learner. Show that. That would be the one thing I would do. And the other thing I would do, going way back to the beginning of our conversation about, you're being very strategic with your search.
Hmm.
Recruiters will raise an eyebrow, and anything more than 18 months, I would say. 18 months,
Hmm.
you need a really good story for. So create a really good, I mean, I'll create a story, tell the story short and fast.
Right.
Well, I had some illness in my family and I need to take some time off. Anywho, right? So just have that nice and fast, get some relevant newer skills are just presented on your resume. I'm not saying lie, you need to learn
Hmm.
about it. And then work your networks. But I would not be intimidated by
Hmm.
the gap. And the only other thing I would say about this is it's going to take more people to get ROI on AI before
Hmm.
AI cannibalizes those very people who who helped it along.
Right.
So I don't think our all collective push into AI is an immediate blowback on our employment opportunities.
Hmm.
I think we're all working to create a very different society and workforce.
So I have another question that was sent to me privately, and it'll beget more questions. But can you elaborate on the supply chain implications? Standard
Hi.
operating procedures, demand sensing, like, because obviously chief supply chain officers can work with CIOs at all different
And
individuals,
just
but
make sure I understand the supply chain implications of what specifically?
just I think in general, demand
Oh,
they
working in hand. Oh, say, okay,
yeah.
so supply chain. Let me just take a step back on supply chain for a second.
Mhm.
I was writing this series on transformation. And then when COVID hit, it felt tone deaf to call people and say, hey, can we talk about transformation? It's
Mhm.
like, what? So I did what I called a listening tour, where
Mhm.
I went and talked to lots of, I work primarily with the CIO community. So the
Mhm.
very, very large CIOs, I found like people like a Walgreens right on the front end, and then Johnson and Johnson because they're working on the
Mhm.
cure and or the vaccine and all of that. And I asked them lots of things like what are you glad you had in place for COVID to make the
Right.
transition? And they lots of things, culture policies. What did you wish you have? Supply chain analytics, supply chain analytics, supply chain analytics. I think it's all I heard. Because
Right.
let's say you're an alcohol distributor, your catering business drops, your retail business, thanks to me primarily, uh, goes up. Just kidding.
Right.
It was other people. It wasn't just me driving up alcohol sales. Um, but the point is, supply chain analytics would have enabled those leaders to move things more readily. Well, now with tariffs, everything. So I have a wonderful PR
Mm,
firm, and they're always pitching me, and then we get hits. And lately, the hits are all about supply chain and how you can use
right,
AI or technology or analytics to manage supply chain in order to do what if scenarios with where we are right now. So to me, supply chain and CIOs have always been hand in hand. And in fact,
right,
one of the standard sort of career moves was I'm CIO. Now I'm CIO and head of supply chain. That was sort of the first. So I'm not sure if I'm hitting the question right, but I would say the implication on AI and on where we are as a globe right now is going to
mhm,
have massive impact on how we do supply chain. Oh, but
right.
then it's so pesky because in the end you got boats and water and real things you have to deal with. It's very annoying.
Mhm.
When can we digitize those things?
Where are you seeing more of the interface amongst the uh, C-level individuals between any particular two disciplines, like mostly between IT and marketing
I,
or mostly between IT and
I mean,
finance? Like, where do you see a lot of the change? I think it's everywhere, but
so
where do you see most of the
So
interaction?
IT and marketing
Hmm.
have always had their sort of dance. I remembered we started writing about the marketing and CMO and CIO relationship like
Right,
a million years ago. I interviewed the CIO of Kellogg at the time on that particular topic. Finance and IT, we know how important that is. And the only thing I would say there is finance.
right.
The more finance can get a handle on how to fund projects in an agile fashion,
Hmm.
where we are funding as we go,
Hmm.
the more that will lubricate. Can I say lubricate? Everybody, is that all right? Lubricate. The more it can lubricate that AI use case engine, the
Right.
more finance can think of different ways to fund, the more
Hmm.
we get out of old school waterfall back and forth projects. So,
Right.
where I'm starting to see real ties, we talked about tech and supply chain. We talked
Hmm.
about, I just wrote them. It's so funny. I wrote them down for this. The ones I had in mind in particular are understand. I wrote this. Understand that one of the parameters of real Gen AI or any new capability is a strong relationship that's operationalized across legal,
Hmm.
risk, technology, and finance.
Hmm.
That's the governance piece.
Right.
And the other thing I would say, chief data officer. What is a chief data officer? And do you need one of those and a chief AI officer? And do you also need a chief transformation officer on top of that? So I think we're going to have, and now I'm just kind of blathering, so I'll stop in a second. But I think what we're going to have is, in the same way we tried to figure out where does e-commerce go. It took us a little while, right? And then we named the chief digital officer for a
Is there going to
while.
be a chief agent officer
I
for all
think,
the
I mean, it
agents that
could
are in
be.
the
We don't know.
company?
But it's always throw an executive function at a new thing.
Right.
And if AI is always a
Hmm.
means to the so what does a head of AI do?
Right.
And the only place where I would say the head ahead of AI, I would really see a very strong application would be like in a lab at a pharma.
Hmm.
You know, someone who really knows how to do drug development using AI. To me, R&D AI leadership makes sense. I don't think
Right.
enterprise AI leadership makes sense just yet. Because
Yeah,
to
just
your
yet.
point, it's a tool, it's a capability, it's not an executive function. Who do they
Right.
hire?
Um, I, I I had a few private questions, and I'm going to ask you this question, even though I hate
Please.
this question, but it needs to be
This is
it needs to
natural.
it need,
Natural.
um because I think it's some of those individuals that are struggling or have struggled in a search. It goes back to, the keywords into, with getting a resume into an applicant tracking system question. And because there's a lot of misinformation about how AI is choosing candidates. I don't know, for those of you who watch Toy Story, back in the day, I always envisioned Claw, like Claw decides who stays and who goes. I'm like, that's not how this works. I think engaging in some of the conversational points that you've brought up and having a higher brow conversation about how AI or how results are coming from the use of this tool in your particular discipline and networking, right? You've brought up
Right.
networking more than a dozen
Yes.
times in the conversation, will then prevent
Right.
you from needing to submit to a job posting.
It's
But
a wonderful
how
question.
are you
Let me,
finding candidates, and what's the relevance of the
sure.
keyword into the ATS,
And
question? Because I just
I'll
want to
address
help
all of that
people.
because, a friend of mine said to me recently, she said, AI has just made everything a little bit worse. That's
Right.
what she said to me the other day.
Which also,
And she's,
you can, I'm going to just interrupt you one more time because I
please,
think you can answer then what's the state of the hiring market for IT leadership or just
perfect.
leadership from your
Let me hit on
standpoint?
all of this.
Right.
Number one, AI is not facilitating the job hiring process because we still have the so what, and we know AI. I think of Copilot as my very fast but not
Hmm.
so smart assistant who I
Right.
have to really stay on top of. And I'm
Hmm.
sure that will get better. But right now, AI is going to cause way more no, signal noise. Noise
Right.
AI is creating a lot of noise. So I wouldn't I wouldn't even let that noise bother you when
Hmm.
it comes to is who's looking at my resume, AI or somebody else. Don't worry about it. It's a mess. So that's number one. I wouldn't get it, don't waste your time.
Right.
Number two, at the same time, you want to submit your resume. So I believe, given where we are with the economy and layoffs, I don't think, depending on the level you're applying for, anybody's really on the other side looking hard at those
Hmm.
resumes. I think you're online, and then I can't tell you the number of times someone
Hmm.
has told me they applied online somewhere. And then I
Hmm.
turn around and say, hey, I want to make sure you see this candidate. And they're like, oh, we haven't seen this person before. It's like, they applied
Right.
online.
You need
So
to talk to people.
nobody's there. So, but
Hmm.
you still want to get your resume into their employment, their ATS system of record.
Hmm.
So that when you come around another way through networking, through whatever, you've already applied, you've already shown, you've engaged in the system of record. But when you apply, don't expect someone's going to call you, someone's going to look at your resume. And when they do, isn't that wonderful? But I wouldn't, that is not a job search. That's just getting your resume into the systems of record for the companies that you would like you're pursuing employment with.
Right.
So that's that piece. When it comes to AI, though, hey, I really like this company. That's the person CHRO is the one I put on my hit list, or I really like the CEO. Use AI to find a million more. That's a great way to use AI to help your job search. Have
Right.
AI write your gorgeous opening email to
Hmm.
these people. Have AI translate your brand into a couple of action statements or something.
Hmm.
But AI's ability to find you in a crowd, I wouldn't waste your time.
Right.
So, so that's how I would sort of use AI. And then
Hmm.
I just want to say something about the market right now. We're a small firm, we're growing, and we're right in the epicenter of this stuff. So we
Hmm.
are 35% ahead of where we were this time last year, which is not what much of the executive search industry is saying.
Hmm.
And that is because we are at the epicenter of companies who must solve their technology problems and they must figure out what to do with
Hmm.
this data. But you're all at the epicenter of that too.
Hmm.
So what I would say is AI is replacing my job, fiction. Let's meet
Hmm.
here in a year and decide if it's still fiction. Today, 2 years, 2 years. Today,
Right.
fiction. Their AI is not threatening your job unless you are a call center rep. And there, for a long time, AI is going to help you do your job before it replaces you.
Right.
In fact, you're going to be even more required to train AI.
Hmm.
So let's remember to get a return on a massive investment in tech by a country, by a globe, we need people. Drive
Hmm.
adoption, have use cases, people. That's why everything is about people. So I wouldn't let any noise. Now I wouldn't say, oh, the market's so great, leave your job and then waiting for another one. I mean, we all
Right.
are watching what's happening with the market. But I
Hmm.
believe and not I believe, I know. I mean, I see my wonderful recruiter, Kelly Doyle, on the line here, and I think Kelly could tell you that search work is coming fast and furious, and it's not and candidates have competing offers.
Hmm.
Companies need what they need. and they're
Right.
not going to stop me. What they might stop doing is paying Kelly and me to help them out, and that would be too bad. But they're going to need that leadership now more than ever. They are afraid. And Trump, excuse me, our political current administration has just added to that fear.
Right.
So my
Agreed.
point is fear needs leadership. So if you can just show that you can help them solve this problem, but also your humanist side, your humanism can help them do that in a way that it creates connection and it's good for the team. I mean, that,
Mhm.
so I'm not afraid of the market. If I were afraid of the market, I'd be worried for my business, and I'm not at this moment.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we're not afraid either. We've been doing just fine because people see the need in articulating the leadership in a clear way.
That's right.
The more that there is, all of this technological, muddiness, there's more and more of a need for clarity and message. And if
That's
you're
right.
unable to do that yourself, then you need help to do that. And
That's right.
I just, I love the uses of AI for coming up with lists and whatnot. You just have to remember that none of us are prompt experts, probably, right? I'm just going to go out on a limb. So many people are using the same types of prompts. So people are getting the same types of information. And that could be damaging if you're using it for your branding, because then you're going to sound like everybody else. And if it works for you, that's great. But if you're finding that you're struggling and you've done this through AI, then that could be the reason is because you just sound like everybody else now. But I'm glad you put some clarity around the misinformation that, AI is choosing. It's no more than running a search term in a database and, you know,
That's right.
candidates come
It,
up in a search. But I think that if you're only focusing on job postings, that's part of the issue because in order
right.
for, like you said, there's always a problem to solve in every economy. Whether the economy is up or down, there is always a problem to solve. And if you are someone who is one to capitalize on opportunity regardless of the chaos or sees the problem to solve and not necessarily posting driven, you have conversations to unearth opportunity or to unearth a problem that you can solve. There'll always be a market for someone like you, whether or not the posting happens. Because then they'll design
And
the job around you, and then it gets posted. And half the postings I believe out there are usually earmarked for
it,
somebody
it
else who they have in mind.
exactly. Let me just cap that with one anecdote. So over the years, I'll see candidates who don't have great resumes, super, super
Hmm.
jumpy. And I just think, I just don't know how we're going to present this to a client because the first thing they're going to say is, we need somebody who's going to stick around.
Right.
And I think we're not going to be able to represent this candidate. But then they check in with me, and they're always, and I see they're reaching out to other recruiters. I see them being active, and I see them doing this sort of discipline, very strategic. And then, sure enough, 6 weeks later, they've landed a new role, and I think, wow, that person hustled. And using networks as a result, they're able
Hmm.
now to have another opportunity to have a
Right.
longer stint on their resume. So my point is this stuff, if you say I've been doing my job search for months, I must have applied to 1,000 applications, you have not done a job search. The job search is what am I really good at? Who cares? How do I turn that into a strategy? And how do I get myself to the person who cares? And
Right.
how do I tell them why they should care in that meeting? That's it.
Hmm. That's
It's so
that's
simple.
really
It's
it.
like
I mean, it's
losing
simple,
weight.
but
You
it's
just
not.
eat less and exercise more. So
Right.
easy.
No, exactly. So Krista is going to pop, the link to Martha's newsletter, the Heller Report, which is amazing. You absolutely need to sign up for that, whether you are in IT or not. And she'll also pop in. Martha has a CIO career coach series on YouTube that's really informative. So she's going to pop that in there too. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. Um, Easy to find. There's only a dentist in Parsippany with the same name, so you should be able to find me pretty easily. and who also went to Cornell too. It's weird. We get each other's emails once in a while. But anyway, but I thank all of you for coming today. Martha, thank you so, so much. This was truly outstanding. Krista, thanks for keeping the bubble gum and the glue together and the wheels going. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or any email or text you've gotten from me reminding you of this session. You can always reply to. I'm happy to answer. And Martha, any parting words? Thank you so much for this. This is really
You
fantastic.
know, all I would say is, change breeds opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all lived
Amen.
through so much change. This seems like a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of opportunity. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Lisa. Thanks, everybody.
This was awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.